Discover the incredible healing journey of a Black receptionist and a broken billionaire. Heartwarming hope awaits. Maya rushed through the busy streets of downtown Chicago. Her heart raced as her heels clicked against the pavement. She wore her signature smile, a bright facade hiding the weight of unpaid bills and her mother's lingering illness. Each day felt like a marathon, yet she persevered, driven by the dreams of her younger sister, who looked up to her like a guiding star. The corporate upper management glared at her, dismissive of the strength behind her smile. Little did they know she was their lifeline. Across the city, Caleb Hawthorne stood at the edge of a precipice, opulence surrounding him, yet despair clung to his heart. Once a billionaire respected by many, a scandal had unraveled his world, forcing his friends away and leaving him drowning in regret. The glimmering heights he once occupied now felt like a prison, taunting him with whispers of betrayal that echoed off his hollow success. The two lives soon converged at a lavish company charity event, meant to uplift local businesses. The room was adorned with sparkling chandeliers and laughter that masked the undercurrents of greed. When Maya stepped into that opulence, it was as if the air shifted. Among the sea of suits and dresses, her authenticity shone, mesmerizing Caleb as he observed her quietly, intrigued by her resilience. They were soon forced together in a chaotic conversation that burst into life amidst the crowd. A connection sparked, grounded in their shared struggles. Maya spoke about her dream to open a beauty salon, her eyes lighting up with every word. "I want to create a space where every woman feels seen," she said. Caleb felt a flicker of the man he used to be, before his world was consumed by shadows. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Suddenly, the glint of Caleb's rich past intersected with his present. Former associates lurked nearby, their eyes glimmering with greed and ready to draw him back into the dark side. The pressure closed in around him, shadows whispering temptations that shook his newfound resolve as Maya's dreams began crystallizing in his heart. Just as they started to build a bridge of hope, fate dealt its cruel hand. Maya stumbled upon a hidden truth about Caleb that shattered her trust. A raw ache rose in her chest, and doubt flickered in her mind. She stood torn between ambition and loyalty, but the fear of diving deeper into Caleb's tumultuous world clawed at her insides. The event raged on, laughter and music fading into a cacophony of anxiety that enveloped them. Maya and Caleb faced each other across the distance between their divided lives, both grappling with a painful decision. Could they truly overcome the ghosts of their past and build a future together? As they hovered on the edge of belief and betrayal, tension thickened the air, leaving an unanswered question lingering between them like a promise awaiting its fulfillment. The silence between Maya and Caleb screamed louder than the chatter of the room around them. Her heart sank as she searched his eyes, searching for the truth that felt just out of reach. Had all those dreams they had begun to share just been a mirage? The beautiful connection that had sparked between them flickered like a candle in the wind. Caleb felt it too. The tightening in his chest, the rush of regret. He had let himself hope, but now that hope felt like shards of glass, ready to cut him open. He could see the question hanging in the air around Maya, hanging like the oppressive weight of the unspoken. "Look, Maya," Caleb began, his voice barely a whisper. But before he could continue, a booming laugh broke into their moment. A tall man in an expensive suit sauntered over, his presence forcing Caleb to straighten up, the mask he wore all too familiar. It was Thomas, one of his business partners, smirking with condescension. "Caleb, found a new friend, have you?" Maya took a step back, anxiety coursing through her veins. She felt exposed, as if the world was peeling away her carefully crafted layers. She couldn't remain in the shadows forever. But did she want to step into this spotlight? "Just having a chat about life's dreams," Caleb said, his tone light, but his gaze remained serious. He glanced back at Maya, silently urging her to stay with him. A flicker of determination crossed her face. She wouldn't let Thomas's presence push her away. Well, dreams require a lot of hard work. And I've learned that trust is part of that, too, she declared. Her voice steady despite the quivering in her heart. Caleb's cheeks flushed slightly. He recognized the challenge in her tone. Maya, he said, but she shook her head, cutting him off. I need to know who you really are, Caleb. Not just the man in a suit, but the one behind all of this. Her gesture swept across the room, indicating the lavish event filled with empty conversations and hidden agendas. The pain in her words struck Caleb like a physical blow. But he couldn't simply reveal all his failures and heartbreak before her. He didn't want to drench her bright spirit in his dark past. I'm still figuring that out myself, he confessed, vulnerability cracking through the facade he always maintained. Maya's expression softened briefly, but doubt returned. The truth was stepping closer. Yet every step she took brought more hesitation. What if I can't support that? She whispered, a single tear threatening to spill over. Caleb's heart sank further. He couldn't lose her. He wouldn't let that happen. He stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking with every breath they took. Then let me show you. You don't have to trust me now, but let me prove I can be the man you need. At that moment, the lights dimmed as a host took center stage, showcasing the very corruption they both wanted to escape. The noise of the crowd rose, drowning out meaningful exchange as caustic laughter echoed in the background, reminding Caleb of the very world he was trying to escape. Maya watched him, her decision heavy as a mountain pressing down on her. Did she dare take that leap into the unknown with him? Was risking her heart worth the chance at a real connection? Just then, a familiar face cut through the crowd, her mother's old friend, someone who knew all about family feuds and buried secrets. Maya's breath quickened at the sight. Questions about Caleb surged back in waves. Might she discover more than just betrayal? The room buzzed with conflicting emotions as the night unfolded before them. And with that, Maya found herself at a crossroads, driven by hope but held down by fear. Would she dive into Caleb's chaotic life? Or would she pull back and protect her heart? The tension settled between them, alive with possibility. The night wasn't over yet, and somewhere deep down, they both knew a reckoning was on the horizon, waiting for the right moment to ignite their fates. Maya felt a surge of panic as her mother's friend, Evelyn, threaded through the crowd. Evelyn's presence was like a gust of wind, blowing in memories she had tried to lock away. The woman had always been a reminder of expectations, of paths not taken. As she drew near, Maya's heart raced. Would this be a moment of revelation, or another crushing disappointment? Hello, dear. Evelyn's voice rang out, rich with familiarity and warmth. It's been ages. You look stunning tonight. She glanced from Maya to Caleb, her eyes narrowing slightly. And who is this? Caleb offered a strained smile, stepping forward to introduce himself. I'm Caleb, a colleague and a friend. Evelyn raised her brow, skepticism flickering across her features. The word friend felt loaded, each syllable crackling with unsaid judgments. Friends are hard to come by in this world, aren't they? She shifted her gaze to Maya, her tone softening. Have you been keeping well? Maya's mind whirled with the implications of the question. Did Evelyn know something? The air was thick between them, each second stretching uncomfortably, reminding Maya that in the world of suits and ties, sincerity often got dressed up and went out to dinner. She could feel Caleb's tension beside her, and without thinking, she reached for his hand, desperate for connection. Yes, she finally replied, forcing lightness into her voice. I've been good. Just trying to navigate life. Evelyn studied her, eyes sharp and discerning. A life has a way of complicating things, doesn't it? If you need advice, you know where to find me. I've learned quite a few things in my years. Thanks, Evelyn, Maya said, her voice trailing off. She felt a strange mix of gratitude and irritation. Why was it so easy for others to speculate about her life while she still tangled in uncertainties? Caleb squeezed her hand gently, grounding her in that moment. We were just discussing how trust weaves its way into our dreams, he said, hoping to lead the conversation back to safer ground. Oh, trust, Evelyn chuckled. Such a fickle friend. Trust can build empires or it can bring them crumbling down. Her words hung in the air. Maya's breath hitched. Was she painting Caleb as the villain before she even knew his story? But then, was it fair to cling to myths in place of truth? Caleb turned slightly toward Maya, his expression earnest. People can change, he said, more to her than to Evelyn. And sometimes, it's the hardest journeys that lead us to the right places. Before Maya could respond, the crowd surged, pushing them apart briefly. The chatter shifted, and the hostess' voice boomed again above the din, announcing yet another phase of the night. Moments later, Caleb leaned in closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Let us step outside, get some air?" His invitation was laced with an urgency that sent a jolt through Maya. For a split second, Maya hesitated. The world inside was chaotic and noisy, yes, but outside held its own dangers and uncertainties, as well realities she had always tried to skirt around. "'Kay," she finally said, her heart pounding. Together they navigated through the throngs of guests, each step a mixture of anticipation and dread. Once outside, the cool night air wrapped around them, refreshing and crisp. She savored the silence of the courtyard, a stark contrast to the clamor behind them. This felt like a different world, pressing the two of them against a wall of unspoken truths. "Now what?" Maya asked, glancing up at him. "Now," Caleb started, his eyes locking onto hers, "we talk. Just us. No masks." But before he could continue, a chill swept through the air. A shadow flickered at the edge of the courtyard, and a voice emerged from the darkness, one that could shatter everything they dared to reveal. "Maya," it called, dripping with familiarity and malice. Her stomach dropped. This was someone from her past, someone who knew all her secrets. How would Caleb react when they became intertwined in her tangled history? Maya's heart raced as the name echoed in the night. It was a name she thought she'd buried deep. Kevin. The very mention felt like a ghost slipping from the shadows, a reminder of a time full of choices she wished she could erase. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, fear and anger intertwining. Caleb's grip tightened on her hand. "Do you know him?" he asked, concern flooding his voice. The figure stepped closer, almost too casually, but the surrounding light revealed enough for Maya's heart to sink further. Kevin flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Surprised to see you, Maya. Didn't expect you to be at such a fancy event," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Maya's breath hitched. "What do you want, Kevin?" "Oh, come on," he laughed softly, but it was tainted with something darker. "Just came to catch up. It's been a while since we've danced around the truth, hasn't it?" Caleb shifted, positioning himself slightly in front of Maya. The protective gesture sent a wave of warmth through her, grounding her even as a tidal wave of memories washed over. She could almost feel the flood of her past trying to pull her under, but Caleb was there, a buoy in the chaos. "Maya, you don't have to engage with him," Caleb said firmly. But Kevin waved him off, his confidence unnerving. "Oh, this doesn't concern you, pal. Just a little conversation between friends." His eyes flicked back to Maya, and with that gaze came a flood of old emotions: hurt, betrayal, a longing for closure. "We were so good together, weren't we?" Maya's pulse quickened. The memories of laughter and shared dreams battled against the darker times, the betrayals she hadn't fully confronted. "You don't get to talk about we," she snapped, trying to wrestle back control. "I'm just saying what everyone else thinks. It's a small world, Maya. You're still going to stumble into old faces." His gaze turned steely. "Especially when you try to climb higher than you belong." A silence enveloped them, thick and oppressive. Maya could sense Caleb's confusion, his protective stance confused by the clear tension in the air. Would he believe this lie? Would he see past the mask Kevin wore? "Maya, let us go," Caleb urged quietly, his voice steady. But that was all it took to ignite Kevin's irritation. "Running away, huh? You did that a lot back then," Kevin snarled, stepping forward, invading their space. "But you know what? The past can't stay buried. I'll remind you of it." Maya's heart raced, not just with fear but with a fierce determination. She owed it to herself to stand her ground. Caleb had shown her a glimpse of truth tonight, and she wouldn't let the shadows pull her back. "Listen, Kevin. I'm not that person anymore. You can't haunt me forever." Her voice shook slightly but remained resolute. Caleb looked at her, pride blooming in his eyes. She felt a rush of strength and a reminder that she wasn't locked in that cage of memories. "Such a brave face, Maya," Kevin sneered, the menace in his tone bubbling back to the surface. "Let us see how long that lasts." Before she could respond, Kevin turned on his heel and melted back into the shadows, leaving a tension in the air that crackled like static. Caleb turned to Maya, concern flooding his features. "Are you okay?" Maya nodded slowly, though her heart felt heavy. "I will be. I thought I left him behind. The weight of that moment hung between them, a fragile thread of resilience in a chasm of darkness. Maya realized for the first time in a long while that perhaps the past didn't need to define her. But as they stood there in the cool night air, a new thought flickered through her mind. What if he comes back? She whispered, vulnerability creeping in. Caleb's eyes searched hers, steely determination evident. Then we'll face him together. With that promise hanging in the air, something shifted. The night felt charged with a new energy, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could reclaim her narrative, one step at a time. But what if Kevin wasn't the only shadow lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike? Maya took a deep breath, her mind racing with thoughts that felt far too heavy for the chilly evening air. Standing there with Caleb by her side, the world felt both expansive and claustrophobic. The glimmering lights of the event scattered around them, but all she could see was the figure of Kevin slipping away into the darkness, carrying a piece of her past with him. Let us just get some air, Caleb said, gently leading her away from the crowd. He guided her to a secluded corner of the venue, where the distant sounds of laughter and chatter faded into a dull hum. Once they were alone, Maya felt the weight of the moment settle in. I can't believe he's here, she confessed, rubbing her arms as if to chase away an invisible chill. I thought I had outrun that part of my life. Caleb studied her face, eyes filled with compassion. You don't have to face this alone, Maya. You've got me, he insisted, his voice steady but filled with warmth. She appreciated the offer, the promise of solidarity, yet a small part of her still wavered. But what if he keeps coming back? What if he tries to ruin everything again? Caleb stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. Then we'll make sure he knows he can't touch you. You're stronger now. You don't have to let him control your story. His faith in her sparked something inside, a slow-burning flicker of hope. Her cheeks flushed as Caleb took her hand in his grip firm but tender, grounding her in that moment. She met his eyes, surprise and gratitude swirling within her. You really mean that? Of course I do. You're not that girl from back then. You've grown. You've changed, Caleb said. And I admire you for it. Maya felt a spark in her chest. Caleb saw her, truly saw her. He wasn't looking at the past, but at the person she had become. Still, a deep anxiety settled within her. The shadows from her earlier life didn't just fade because she had moved forward. They lingered, waiting for any opportunity to creep back in. As they talked, another realization struck her, a blend of dread and urgency. It wasn't just Kevin who haunted her. It was the fear of failure, the fear of being unworthy of this new life she was carving out. Caleb, you need to understand, she began, her voice softening. This isn't just about him. It's about me learning to trust myself. He nodded, squeezing her hand gently. Then we'll walk through this together, one step at a time. Let me help you find that trust again. Emboldened by his support, she took a deep breath. You're right. I can't keep running or hiding. I need to confront this, face my history head-on. Caleb smiled, the warmth radiating from him feeling like a protective shield. That's the spirit. You're not alone in this fight, Maya. And you're certainly not defined by your past. But as the night wore on, the feeling that something lingered just beneath the surface didn't dissipate. It gnawed at her, a shadow that still loomed despite her resolve. Not long after their talk, a sudden commotion erupted from the main hall. The sound of raised voices sliced through the air, drawing Maya and Caleb's attention. She caught snippets of angry shouts, a buzz of confusion sparking concern in her chest. What's going on? She murmured, her instincts on high alert. Caleb shifted. Let us find out. As they approached the gathering crowd, a bad feeling twisted in Maya's gut. All at once the notion settled in. This wasn't just the end of an encounter with Kevin. It felt like the beginning of something far more complex. What if Kevin was only the tip of the iceberg, the catalyst for something darker hidden within the world she was now stepping into anew? Taking a deep breath, she exchanged a determined look with Caleb, a silent pact forming between them. Together they would confront whatever lay ahead. But would they be prepared for the truths lurking around the corner? Maya and Caleb pushed their way through the swirling crowd, the noise escalating as they closed in on the chaos. People were murmuring hastily, concern and curiosity etched on their faces. What is happening? Maya asked a nearby guest. a woman who was clutching her glass of wine tightly, her knuckles pale from the pressure. "It's Kevin," the woman replied, her eyes wide. "He's arguing with someone, a big deal. I think it's about money and some old debts." The mention of Kevin sent a jolt through Maya. She felt a surge of protectiveness, but it also stirred the fear that clung to her. Would he pull her back into the darker corners of her past, dragging along the weight of old debts, grievances, and insecurities? As they reached the edge of the gathering, they could see Kevin in the center, his hands gesturing emphatically. Across from him stood a much older man, the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. They couldn't hear the exact words, but the emotion was palpable: anger, resentment, and a hint of desperation. It was unsettling to watch. Suddenly, the older man leaned in closer, his voice rising above the din. "You think you can just walk away? You're not as free as you believe, Kevin." Maya exchanged a glance with Caleb, reading the worry shadowing his bright eyes. He nudged her forward slightly, discreetly encouraging her to move closer, to understand the scene unfolding before them. She hesitated, biting her lip, but there was a magnetic pull to it all. She had to know. Kevin's face blanched, his bravado faltering for just a moment. That flicker of vulnerability sent a strange twist through Maya. She realized this wasn't just the figure she had feared, the one who represented her past, but a man flailing against the tides of his choices. As if sensing her shift in perspective, Caleb whispered to her, "Remember who you are now. You define your space." Taking a deep breath, Maya stepped closer, propelled not just by her fears, but by the curiosity of her newfound strength. Kevin's head turned just as he caught her gaze. His expression shifted from anger to surprise, and just for a heartbeat, she thought she saw genuine regret slip across his features. "Maya," he said, his voice strained. "I didn't stop." She interrupted, her voice clearer and stronger than she expected. "This isn't about me. It's about what you've done. You've pushed everyone away, Kevin. You can't drag me back into your mess." The crowd shifted, surprised by her boldness. Caleb stood just behind her, offering silent support, grounding her as she faced the man who had shaped so much of her pain. Kevin blinked, the intensity of her words landing like punches. The older man snorted derisively, but Maya pressed on. "You can't keep using your past to keep yourself stuck, to keep me stuck. This isn't just a battle for you anymore. It's about a choice. You can choose to learn and move on, or stay trapped. And personally, I'm done being part of that trap." The murmurs swelled, people on edge, unsure of what might happen next. Kevin opened his mouth, struggling to respond, but no words came. A fight had left him, replaced with bewilderment. Was that realization breaking through? Just then, a hand landed heavily on Maya's shoulder. She turned to find Caleb by her side, an approving glance showing his pride. It reassured her. It was a little step, but it felt monumental. "That was brave," he said quietly, stepping a bit closer. But before they could savor the moment, the chaos erupted anew. The older man advanced toward Kevin, anger reigniting. It was clear this confrontation was spiraling out of control, and the dire energy crowded around them like a storm ready to explode. "We need to pull back," Caleb urged, pulling Maya away slightly. "No," she insisted, a new resolve stirring within her. "We have to stay. Whatever this is, I need to see it through." Caleb shot her an incredulous look. "You're sure? We're already in it. I need to know how deep this goes and if Kevin is truly willing to change." As they braced themselves for whatever was about to unfold, Maya felt something shift in her. No longer was she the girl searching for an escape from her past. She was here, confronting the shadows, ready to face whatever truths lay ahead. But this wasn't just about Kevin anymore. It was about her, the newfound courage she was discovering, and the darkness that was yet to be unveiled. What if this night held more than just Kevin's redemption? What if it led to something even more transformative? The older man, clearly unfazed by the tension, took another step forward, his voice rising. "You can't walk away from this, Kevin. You owe me. You owe everyone." The force of his words was like a slap, startling the crowd into a heavy silence. Maya felt the air grow thicker, the heat of a shared anxiety enveloping them. She exchanged a glance with Caleb, who remained steady, his presence a comforting anchor against the storm that threatened to break overhead. "Kevin," she called out again, her voice firm, "you have to stand up for yourself. You can't let him dictate your life anymore. The crowd, drawn into the intensity of the moment, held its breath. Maya saw Kevin's jaw clench tight, muscles twitching under the weight of her words. It was a sliver of a chance, a flickering hope that he'd finally break free from the chains of his past. Just let it go. The older man snarled, contempt deepening every wrinkle of his face. You think you can just get out of this? You're a coward if you don't face your debts. Maya's heart raced as she watched Kevin. In that instant, she saw the boy she once knew lost, scared, and desperate for validation. But more importantly, she saw the man he was becoming, struggling but wanting to break free. Enough! Kevin shouted, surprising everyone, including Maya. It wasn't a yell of bitter defeat but a declaration, a stance. He stepped forward, opposing the older man like a dam holding back a deluge. Stop acting like I owe you my life. Kevin threw the words like they were arrows meant to hit their mark. I'm more than my past mistakes, more than just the decisions I made when I was young and dumb. Maya felt a rush of emotion surge through her. The fear began to recede, replaced by a sense of pride. This was it. This was the confrontation that mattered. But the older man, unwilling to lose his grip, swung back, his voice dripping with disdain. You think you can just ignore your debts? You think it ends here? With each exchange, Maya could feel the energy around them shift. The crowd murmured, tension fluctuating like a restless sea. Caleb squeezed her shoulder. Stay close, Maya. Could get messy. I know, she replied, her breath steady. But I believe in him. Kevin inhaled deeply, his expression shifting. There was pain but also determination in his eyes. I won't run from this anymore. I'm not afraid of you or what I owe. I will make this right on my own terms. Maya's heart soared. This was where healing began, not just for Kevin but for her too. The moment felt electric, their shared past igniting a flame of hope amid the darkness. Feeling a surge of strength, she called out, we can all move on, Kevin. You don't have to do it alone. The clarity in her voice cut through the air, wrapping itself around Kevin like a shield. His eyes found hers, an unspoken understanding passed between them. But then, like a clap of thunder shattering the moment, the older man lunged forward, rage in his eyes. You think I'm just going to let you go? Maya felt her stomach drop. In that heartbeat, every concern, every fear crashed down on her. She stepped back instinctively, her heart pounding. Caleb positioned himself in front of Maya, his own tension coiled tight. No more fighting, man. His voice boomed, demanding respect and a resolution. And for a split second the chaos paused. Everyone stood still, waiting for the next move, for Kevin to decide what his path would be. She could feel the weight of the choice hanging in the air, thick and heavy. What would he say? What would he do next? In this pivotal moment, the future hung in a delicate balance, and Maya knew the outcome could transform everything for both of them. The tension crackled in the air, sharp enough to slice through the uncertainty that prevailed. Just as everyone thought Kevin would back down or crumble under the pressure, he stood tall, his resolve forming a strong barrier against the older man's aggression. Maya watched in awe, heart pounding, as Kevin took a slow, deliberate step forward, his breath steadying as he faced the reckoning he had long avoided. I'm doing this my way, Kevin said, his voice now calm but firm, like the grounding of a tree in a storm. I will pay my debts, but I refuse to let you control my life. I'm not the same kid you used to push around. The crowd murmured in reaction, some faces lighting up with hope while others showed disbelief. Maya could hardly breathe. Her eyes flickered between Kevin and the older man, searching for the next move in this high-stakes standoff. You think you can call the shots here? The older man sneered, stretching out a hand as if to emphasize his dominance. What do you know about real life? You're just a petty dreamer without the guts to follow through. In that moment, Maya felt the pain of Kevin's past, the echoes of judgment but also the powerful resilience that was stirring within him. He held the gaze of the older man, refusing to be reduced by his words. I'm done with dreaming. It's time for me to wake up. The crowd's murmur swelled. A ripple of disbelief mixed with a surge of encouragement swept through. Some folks began to nod, trading glances that showed they were ready to back him. Believe it or not, I've changed, Kevin continued. I've put in the work. It wasn't easy, but I've built my own life from the rubble you left behind. You don't get to take that away from me. Maya's breath caught. She could feel her chest constrict with emotion. She had always known there was more to him, a heart bigger than the fears and doubts pressing down on him. Today he was reclaiming that heart, and she couldn't help but cheer him on in spirit. "Do you hear that?" The older man barked back, voice trembling with rage. "You think that everyone else will celebrate this pathetic show? You're just fooling yourself." But Kevin didn't flinch. Instead, he turned to the crowd, voicing the convictions that poured out of him like a storm finally breaking. "I'm not asking for validation. I'm not here to please you or hold on to your expectations. I'm here for me. And to anyone out there who feels trapped in someone else's story, get out. You're worthy of your own journey." Maya heard her heart roar in agreement. It was so much more than a fight. It was a call to arms, one that resonated not just with her but with everyone around them. She could see the faces in the crowd, some teary-eyed and others shimmering with newfound inspiration. The older man couldn't maintain the tense facade. His face twisted into incredulity, then back into a scowl, as if grappling with the implications of Kevin's words. "They'll make you regret this," he stuttered, words painted with venom. But Kevin's determination dwarfed his threat. The crowd silenced again, watching the battle of wills unfold. "Maya!" Kevin called out, his voice steady. "I need you here with me." Her heart skipped. This was a moment that demanded partnership, authenticity. "I'm right here," she shouted back, surging with courage she didn't know she possessed. As Kevin locked eyes with her, a wave of solidarity washed over the gathering. Kevin turned to the older man one last time, no longer caged by fear. "I'm stepping into my life. If you want to fight me on that, you better be ready for the real me." The older man's face twisted, caught between rage and confusion. And then, just like that, the air shifted. A crack appeared in the older man's armor, and everyone took a collective breath, waiting in anticipation. What would the older man do next? Would he crumble under Kevin's strength or fight back with something even darker? The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, a promise of change just waiting to unfold. The moment stretched, a fragile pause teetering on the edge of chaos. Kevin's voice echoed in the heavy air, a stirring tremor that hung like a prayer. The older man, visibly shaken, narrowed his eyes. "You think you're free? You think walking away from me is strength?" Maya held her breath, the entire crowd caught in the tension. She sensed the gravity of Kevin's words and how they ignited something deep within everyone present. This was not just a confrontation. It was a chance to rewrite narratives, to break the bonds of fear and resentment. "Yeah, I do. Leaving you behind is strength." Kevin shot back with unyielding resolve, his fists curling at his sides, a silent testament to the battles he fought alone. The crowd reacted, a mix of gasps and murmurs. They were roused, emboldened by the clarity of his anger and the purity of his heart. Maya noticed an elderly woman in the front row, her eyes glistening, a soft nod affirming the words that spoke to her own struggles. "Strength?" the older man mocked, his laughter sharp and derisive. "You think you can do this alone? Who will support you when the chips are down? You're still just a kid, a nobody," he spat, but it lacked weight and Kevin's strength filled that void. "You don't get to define me," Kevin shouted back, stepping closer. His voice grew stronger. "I've learned the hard way that the only person who can control my destiny is me. And trust me, I won't let it be you." Maya felt the air shift again, charged with energy. She could see the crowd begin to lean forward, collective breaths creating a wave. Something was happening. People were awakening, sharing in the revelation that sometimes the burden of the past doesn't define the future. "Is this what you want for yourself?" the older man yelled, desperation creeping into his voice. "To leave everything behind? To reject what I do for you? Everything you did for me was suffocating. You taught me that love can sometimes feel like a prison. But not anymore. I'm deciding my path now." Kevin's voice cracked slightly, emotion rushing to the surface like a floodgate bursting. And then, as if sensing the vulnerability behind his words, the crowd responded, murmurs turning to shouts, cheers rising, the atmosphere rippling with empowerment. There were hands raised in support, faces that transformed with belief. In that intimate chaos, Maya felt her own heart swell with pride. Could it be that all this time, they had been waiting for someone to lead them, to lend voice to their struggles? The older man stepped back, the confidence in his earlier posture beginning to falter. Kevin's triumph felt closer. A thin line stretched between victory and doubt. And then with a guttural scream the older man lashed out, "This isn't over. You think you can walk away with no consequences?" Maya instinctively flinched, anticipation coiling tightly in her chest. "Kevin," she breathed, knowing all too well that this could ignite an even darker turn in the confrontation. "I'm ready," Kevin replied, not a trace of hesitation in his voice. The spark in his eyes could set the world ablaze. But behind the thrill of courage, a deeper fear began to creep in. What if stepping boldly toward freedom meant risking everything? As the crowd continued to pulse with energy, a crack appeared in the older man's facade, and it threatened to splinter completely. Would he launch a desperate counterattack, or would he finally crumble under the weight of Kevin's strength? The answer hung in the air, thick with uncertainty, waiting to unfold in the next heartbeat. The crowd waited, hungry for the reckoning, all eyes focused forward. Who would be standing in the wake of this confrontation? The tension built like a thunderstorm, thick and electric. Maya held her breath as she watched the older man's facade begin to wear thin. Kevin stood firm, his resolve a beacon amid the shadows of fear and doubt. The moment stretched, and for the first time, he truly appeared free, ready to break away from the toxic bonds of his past. "Kevin," Maya called. Her voice cut through the noise, steady and strong. He turned to her, a flicker of doubt crossing his face, replaced quickly by the confidence he had just proclaimed. "You are worthy. You fought so hard to get here. Don't let him get to you." The crowd stirred, an undercurrent of support rippling through them. Eyes brightened, faces turned towards Kevin, embracing the unfolding courage. The older man sneered, glaring at the unity forming around them. "What are you all fighting for? An illusion? A fairy tale of empowerment?" His voice dripped with contempt, yet it barely registered with Kevin, who now stood with an inner fire, one that transformed fear into defiance. "I'm fighting for my truth," Kevin shouted back, his voice ringing through the crowd, resonating with each heart. "You can't take that away from me any longer." There it was, the clarity of intent, solid like a fortress. The older man recoiled slightly, caught off guard by the passion igniting in the air. Maya felt tears of pride prick at the corner of her eyes. This was not merely a battle of Kevin's old life, but a turning point for everyone here to confront their struggles, to seek redemption, and forge new paths. She stepped forward, the connection pulsing between them. "We believe in you, Kevin. This is your moment." She felt the warmth of Caleb's reassuring presence beside her, and it fueled her fire. "Why all think this is about belief?" The older man spat, sarcasm now tinged with desperation. "You're no match for me. You're nothing but a bunch of dreamers." Maya's gaze hardened. "Dreamers like you have failed us for far too long." The crowd murmured in agreement, rallying behind her. Kevin clenched his fists, determination flooding his eyes. "We are more than your puppets. You tried to manipulate us, but that stops tonight. We are rewriting our stories." As his words flowed, the crowd erupted in support. Maya joined in, shouting, "Together we rise." The energy surged, invigorating everyone present like a shock of adrenaline. The older man's bravado faltered, his sneer cracking under the weight of the community's determination. "You think you can unite against me just like that?" He blustered, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "Yes," shouted a woman from the crowd, tears shimmering in her eyes. "We are here for each other, for hope. You can't silence our voices anymore." With each shout that rose, the crowd became a force, a wave of unified strength that began to push against the older man. A tide of resilience that threatened to sweep him away. Kevin stood tall at the forefront, no longer just fighting for himself but for all those who had been caged in their lives by men like him. "You're fighting a losing battle. You'll always be nothing without me." The older man's desperation unfolded, chaos palpable in his tone. "No," Kevin replied, calm as a lake after a storm. "I'm becoming everything without you." With that, he took a step forward, as if the weight of his past dissolved into the night. The crowd roared, bodies surging with newfound confidence, empowerment surging through the collective breath of the hall. "You're done," someone shouted, and the roar turned into a chant, echoing their sentiment like a heartbeat thumping in harmony. Maya watched Kevin, his essence glowing with a light she had never seen before, his past dematerializing as he reclaimed who he truly was meant to be. With each word he began to shake off the chains that had held him for so long, breaking through barriers, both externally and internally. And then came the pivotal moment. The older man, realizing the precariousness of his position, attempted one last hurrah. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure," but the cries of the crowd drowned him out. "No more." The community stood firm, a barrier against the negativity he embodied. In that instant, Maya understood. This wasn't only Kevin's transformation. It was a collective reclamation of power. The shadows that had haunted them all were receding, defeated by the courage shining forth like a lighthouse through fog. The older man faltered, then turned, retreating into the night, his presence vanishing, along with the shadow he cast upon Kevin and all gathered there. With his departure, an anchor lifted, and the crowd erupted in triumphant cheers. Maya turned to Caleb, their eyes meeting in a bond of shared celebration. She saw reflected in him the relief mixed with pride. They had confronted darkness together, and as it retreated, space for healing grew wider. Kevin stood amidst the joyous crowd, embodying a phoenix risen from the ashes, his spirit alive and free. The connection between Maya and him ignited once more, unspoken understanding clear in the space between them. "Let us go start that beauty salon," he murmured, a grin breaking across his face, eyes sparkling with renewed possibilities. Maya laughed, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "I can't wait." In that moment they weren't just envisioning dreams but crafting a future together, a shared journey woven in strength and authenticity. As the clamor echoed around them, a final thought broke through the last vestiges of pain. The past would always be there, but now it became just a prologue to the beautiful story beginning at this very moment. This was their new beginning. They stepped forward, hand in hand, hearts lighter and paths clearer. It was time for transformation, not just for themselves but for all those who dared to hope. Now, as the credits begin to roll on this extraordinary journey, I urge you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because this is the moment to show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this, because true fans understand the importance of lifting each other up through these messages.